Good morning, Miss Hoffman's class. Alrighty, so our lesson today is called Jefferson and Monroe. So we are continuing forward in time. However, we're going to revisit an old friend, Thomas Jefferson. Entering his office in Washington, D.C., Thomas Jefferson, President of the United States, was pleased to find his friend James Monroe waiting for him. Monroe politely rose to his feet, but the president said, "Sit down, James. This is not a formal meeting, as you can see." In fact, Thomas Jefferson was dressed in his robes and slippers. So which one do we think is Thomas Jefferson and which is James Monroe, according to what they're wearing? As the two men sat down, James Monroe thought to himself, Thomas Jefferson doesn't try to make himself look fancy or important, but he is the smartest and most interesting person I have ever known. How lucky I am to be his friend. At the same time, President Jefferson was thinking, James Monroe is honest and intelligent, and he is willing to work hard to do a good job. So, from their descriptions of each other, do you think they would be good leaders for America? So speaking out loud now, the president said, James, I have an important job I want you to do, one that I think you especially are well suited to carry out. I want you to buy a city. Have you ever heard of somebody buying a whole city? I beg your pardon, James Monroe exclaimed in surprise. Buy a city? Yes, I want you to go to France to see the Emperor Napoleon, who rules France and half of Europe as well. When you reach France, I want you to buy the city of New Orleans from Napoleon. So we have right down here is New Orleans. James Monroe knew that the city of New Orleans sat near the mouth of the Mississippi River. The mouth of a river is where it leads out into the ocean. So this is where the river connects with the ocean. So this is where New Orleans is as well. French settlers started settling in New Orleans many years ago because they knew that ships and boats could travel up and down the Mississippi, allowing people to buy and sell with one another all along the length of the Great Mississippi River. So the Mississippi River, actually, if we look, it starts way up here and it goes all the way down there. That's a pretty long way. James Monroe knew that France still owned New Orleans, plus a great deal of land to the west of the Mississippi River, stretching out all the way to the Rocky Mountains. So they owned this big green part here. And we actually live here in the Rocky Mountains. Jefferson stopped and stared into the flames of the fire by which they sat, for it was a chilly morning. Then he continued, As you know, James, our nation, the United States, is on the eastern side of the Mississippi, while the area that France has claimed is on the western side. So this is where, in orange, is where the U.S. is, and this in green is where France is. And you can't see it, but this gray part over here was the Spanish. More and more Americans are moving near the Mississippi and building towns and cities along the river. We must make sure Americans can do business up and down the river if we are going to build up that part of the United States. Right now, France and the United States are friends, and Napoleon lets American ships pass by New Orleans on their way from the ocean up and down the river. But if Napoleon ever grew angry with us, the Americans were able to sail past New Orleans on their way from the ocean up and down the river. What do you think President Jefferson was worried might happen if Napoleon got angry? I understand, said James Monroe. Napoleon could stop our ships and boats from bringing us the things we need. He could stop our farmers in that part of the country from sending food they grew to the rest of us back east, or stop people in the east from sending farming tools to the farmers. I understand why New Orleans is important, but why would Napoleon want to sell the city? Jefferson answered, Napoleon needs as much money as he can get his hands on, so that he can pay for supplies, uniforms, food, and ships for his soldiers and sailors because France is fighting a war in Europe. We will offer to pay him the money he wants, which will make him happy, and we will get control of the river, which will make us happy. Napoleon certainly seems to have a reason to sell New Orleans to us, said Monroe. So this is Napoleon, and so is this. These are both pictures of Napoleon. Jefferson replied, "He may have a reason, but we must get Napoleon to agree to the same. He can be very difficult to work with, James. He thinks he is the most important person alive. If he believes you think so too, he can be a loyal and powerful friend. A loyal friend is somebody who sticks by your side no matter what. On the other hand, if he thinks you do not see him as important or do not agree with his ideas, he will have his servants throw you out of his palace and slam the door. James, you are so likable. He'll want to work with you. If you succeed, you will help us to open up the entire western part of the country that's near the Mississippi River. Will you try?" So this would mean that America would be able to settle even further west than the Mississippi. James Monroe stood up. "It will be my honor to do so," he said. Thomas Jefferson rose and those two friends shook hands. As he turned to go, James Monroe thought, "When I came here this morning, I had no idea I would be going to France for the President of the United States. And just think, I'm going there to buy a city." Alrighty, everybody. So your questions for today. I want you to think about who James Monroe was, who Napoleon was, and then I want you to look at a map and see if you can remember where New Orleans is located, where the Mississippi River is located, and where the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains are located. Alrighty, everybody, check out the craft for today.